Hello and welcome to Chapter 14 in Computers in Healthcare. We are going to be discussing data and information governance. If you want to follow along in the book, we're going to start on page 244 or 245 with the introduction here. So, over the last several decades, the healthcare industry has been collecting and storing massive amounts of data thanks to the EHR. The healthcare industry is also undergoing significant changes in reimbursement, sharing of information through health information exchange, standardization, use of technology, and more. To be successful, the healthcare facility must be able to manage its clinical and administrative data and turn it into useful information that can support the healthcare facility as it undergoes all these changes. The healthcare facility must have the information needed to make decisions, negotiate contracts, provide quality patient care, and more. Information systems can help turn data into information. However, they too must be managed. So if we go over onto 246, we get into what governance actually is, and then we get into what the definition of data governance and what information governance means. So governance by itself is the establishment of policies for managing organization assets and the continual monitoring of their proper implementation. So data governance is the overall management of the availability, usability, integrity, and security of the data employed in an organization or an enterprise. It is a specific enterprise information management function that supports coordination among all other EIM functions. It is the enterprise authority that ensures control and accountability for enterprise data through the establishment of decision rights and data policies and standards that are implemented and monitored through a formal structure of assigned roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities. Now, information governance is an organization-wide framework for managing information throughout its life cycle and supporting the organization's strategy, operations, regulatory, legal, risk, and environmental requirements. And if you look on page 247, you actually have figure 14.1. This is a HEMA's IG infographic, and it kind of demonstrates the differences between information governance and data governance. So you can kind of look through that. But let's talk about how these programs, your data governance and your information governance, actually rely on data and information. So first of all, they need the information or need to be able to rely on the information to make informed decisions. Okay, so you have to understand what's actually going on, what's the problem, what information is available about the background and circumstances. You have to understand your regulatory, legal, and ethical requirements. Now, our example is data and information can be used to identify patient care trends, help determine staffing needs, monitor equipment and supplies inventories, and budgetary support for all functions. Second, to evaluate patient care and patient or population health. So it's important to know how well your patients are responding to treatment. Is their quality of life improving because of the treatment? Is the information translating to local and community and possibly the state or nation, depending on specific therapies being used? So our example here is quality data and information are necessary to evaluate patient treatment outcomes to determine the extent of health disparities and how they compare to the state and national levels. Third, to evaluate business processes. Efficiency and effectiveness, those are two buzzwords that are frequently used in healthcare. So effectiveness is the degree to which stated outcomes are attained. And efficiency is how the desired outcome is achieved or produced, particularly without wasting resources such as time, personnel, and money. So being effective means that you're actually meeting the stated outcomes, and doing it efficiently means that you're not wasting resources, so you're not wasting time or money. An example here is they must evaluate data to determine if utilization management activities, such as discharge planning, are being correctly and appropriately applied. Fourth, to evaluate their financial stability. In the U.S., healthcare is a competitive market. profit and positive financial growth must occur in order for the healthcare provider to have a viable future. Our example here, healthcare facilities use internal and external data to plan healthcare services to meet the changing needs of their local population. Fifth, to reduce security breaches. Confidentiality and privacy are the cornerstones of HIM. Protecting patient data with security policies, procedures, and training help reduce the opportunity for intentional or unintentional data violations, hacking, and medical identity theft. And then last, to control e-discovery cost. This includes the time and effort staff spend on the pre-trial identification and investigation of electronically stored data for civil and criminal legal proceedings. The e-discovery process is the pre-trial activities wherein participants acquire and analyze any electronic data that could be used in civil or criminal and legal proceedings. All right, let's move over to page 248, and we're going to continue on talking about information governance. Now, data governance is a subset of information governance, as data is, of course, the foundation upon which our information is built. So you don't get information without data. So a simplistic way of looking at the two concepts is that data governance addresses the inputs and information governance addresses the outputs. Okay, so input are the data collected and managed. So that's gathering vital signs, gathering other observations from nursing or physicians putting in information about the patients. And the outputs are the reports or the statistics or the other information that we actually obtain from the data. Now, good data is necessary to make appropriate decisions. There's an acronym that's typically used in information technology, but it's called garbage in, garbage out, GIGO. Now, it says this is an appropriate metaphor for the importance of effective data governance, as garbage data provides garbage information. So you're going to get what you put in. So if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage back out of the system. If you put quality data in, you're going to pull quality information out of the system. Dropping down to that next paragraph, I like the way it words it here, but it says data governance and information governance are examples of the little picture, big picture concept. The smaller aspects of data governance provide the little picture while supporting the big picture of information governance. So information governance is the big picture, the all-encompassing information management of the entire healthcare facility. And then it gives you an example using an ICD-10 code, so you can read through that example there. Again, little picture, data governance, big picture, information governance. All right, so let's get into data and information governance and health information management. So data governance and information governance, again, are broad aspects that cover many areas of HIM. So we talked about data quality in Chapter 2, databases in Chapter 3. We've talked about data content standards in Chapter 11, security in Chapter 12. And so we're going to talk about more through this chapter, of course. But data governance is in many ways the foundation for HIM because it includes data modeling. So this is the process of determining the user's information needs and identifying the relationships among the data. Then we have data mapping. This allows us to connect two systems. It allows us to basically take information for one purpose and translate it and use it for another purpose. Then we have our data audits, organizational procedure for monitoring quality of data by analyzing reports for anomalies, inaccuracies, and missing data. Then we have data quality controls. These are tools such as edits and field types used in information systems that actually help us ensure the data quality. So we're talking about those structured fields. Then we have data quality management. This is the business processes that ensure the integrity of an organization's data during collection, application, warehousing, and analysis. Then we have data architecture. This is the development and maintenance of specifications about data that reside in electronic databases. And then we have data dictionary. Again, this is our descriptive list of the names, definitions, and then the attributes of the data elements that we're going to collect in our information systems or databases. So many aspects of data governance are not new to HIM professionals. The profession has been involved in data collection, data quality, data storage, data retention, audits, policies, and other data governance issues for decades, although how HIM professionals accomplish data governance is changing. So our example is governance of data collection in the paper health record used to be archived through form design or achieved through form design. In the EHR environment, the same data collection is governed through screen design, the data dictionary, and other tools. Well, let's talk about the impact of information governance on healthcare and HIM. So a healthcare facility is going to benefit from a strong data governance program in many ways. So first of all, we're going to have improved data quality. We're going to have a reduction of duplication. We're going to have improved trust in our data. And then we're going to gain efficiencies. And when we gain efficiencies, there's automatically cost savings. And then risk mitigations. So we're going to minimize chances of risk because we're improving our data quality and we know that we can trust our data. All right, let's get into metadata. We've talked about this multiple times. Always referred to as the data about our data. Well, this is saying that is just such an oversimplification of this concept. And it gives us a better definition. This is structured information used to increase the effective use of data. Okay, so it includes the electronic timestamp of when our data was created, when it was accessed, or when it was manipulated. Dropping down into that next paragraph, we're going to actually talk about 3 kinds of metadata. But metadata can prove the integrity of the healthcare facility's record by identifying, again, the creation, changes, access, and security of the information to ensure its quality and the trustworthiness. So, again, trustworthiness is very important when we're talking about health information. We need to know that we can trust what's in our electronic health records. Now, 3 types of metadata. So first of all, we have descriptive. Well, descriptive addresses specific data elements acquired and used by the information system. The data dictionary established for all of the data sets within the information system is an example of descriptive metadata. Then we have structural. Structural metadata is the process of acquiring, storing, manipulating, and displaying data. Data models such as entity relationships diagrams and data flow diagrams are diagrammatical or graphic tools used to help program the system and to identify areas of efficiency. And then we have our administrative data. This is programmed in the information system in order to generate data about the usage of the information system. This is where we get our audit trails and our activity reports. All right, now let's drop into data mapping over on 250. Sharing data is critical to the healthcare delivery system. In order to be able to use the data to meet the needs of the healthcare facility, semantic interoperability is needed. Semantic interoperability is the level of interoperability in which the data within the message can be interpreted between computer systems. One tool used to achieve the semantic interoperability is data mapping. As stated earlier, data mapping supports connections between 2 systems. This connection allows the data initially captured for one purpose to be translated and used for another purpose. When mapping data, there is a source and a target. So our source is the original data in the original system, and our target is the actual other system that we're wanting to map the information to. So we have our original system, where we have our information and then we're mapping it to our target system. And it gives us an example in the book of taking an ICD-10 CM code and mapping it to a SNOMED CT code. So if we took the diagnosis or the code A00.9 in ICD-10, that's equivalent to 6365001 in SNOMED CT. All right, let's move over to our next section, get into our information governance. So this whole first paragraph here, I kind of want to go through it and just talk a little bit about it, because it's kind of taking us back to the beginning. It's taking us back into the paper world. It's kind of giving us that history lesson of information back in the day prior to EHRs. So let's read through this paragraph together. So HIM has evolved to include more than health records. HIM now refers to all patient content. So we're talking demographics, clinical information, financial information, provider information, and the power of that content to assist the decision-making processes and delivery of healthcare. Paper records sat on shelves and were only used when specifically requested. The physical nature of the paper meant that it was only available in one place at a time, not readily available to help with decision-making or managing patients or departments whenever and wherever needed. Abstracted data from these paper health records were placed in secondary files or databases, such as in a physician index or a cancer registry. These secondary data sources were useful, but if more detailed information was required, then you had to go review that paper chart. Research using paper health records was often tedious, requiring the need to sift through pages and pages of data, which took a tremendous amount of time. The completeness of the data was also inconsistent. One healthcare facility may be more well managed and have meticulous records, while another's may be less so. And prior to HIPAA, accessing paper records was also problematic for many providers and patients due to inconsistent application of confidentiality and security practices and policies. Ensuring the quality, availability, usability, integrity, and security of the health information is a key aspect of information governance. And so if we go back to Chapter 1, that's where HIM's professional scope addresses analytics and health informatics, and then we have e-discovery, privacy and security, data quality, and so much more. Now, let's talk about how information governance views information as a valued strategic asset. Okay, so information is a valued strategic asset and should be managed just like people, processes, money, and other resources. So, of course, we know that an asset is any resource that is useful and provides a valuable quality. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, information is like the biggest asset of a healthcare facility. A lot of people say people are, but truly it's the information, because you can do so many things with information in a healthcare system. All right, dropping down to the impact. So prior to implementation of EHRs, radiology, lab, and other departments reported results but kept their own information. And so these data silos of information created fragmentation that still haunts some EHR systems. Much like a silo on a farm where each silo holds a different type of grain, a data silo is a separate database or a system within a department that does not integrate into the main organizational system, nor can others outside of that specific department access it. Information governance addresses these issues by managing information overall, not just data of one type or in one location. And so the information can then be used to meet the needs of the healthcare facility. All right, let's move over to business intelligence over on page 253. Now, so business intelligence, this is our end product or our goal of information governance. Business intelligence includes information technology and procedures to analyze all aspects of the healthcare facility's performance, including patient care and healthcare delivery services, personnel, clinical applications and outcomes, and all administrative functions. Business intelligence requires quality data, which is ensured and strengthened by our data governance and our information governance activities. The executive staff of the healthcare facility must develop the abilities to get quality data and information, apply that information to the situation at hand, and incorporate the knowledge and the skills received into the healthcare facility's future processes and decisions. Dropping down into big data. The term big data is mentioned frequently when we talk about data governance, information governance, and business intelligence. In healthcare, big data means electronic health data sets so large and complex, health data sets so large and complex that they are difficult or impossible to manage with traditional software or hardware, nor can they be easily managed with traditional or common data management tools and methods. In order for a healthcare facility to effectively incorporate big data into their strategic and decision-making processes, sophisticated and cutting-edge technologies that address data storage, analytics, and visualization must be applied. Now, let's talk about our steering committee for information governance. So, because staff throughout the healthcare facility should be involved in the information governance process, the healthcare facility needs to have a steering committee for information governance. This committee could create and dedicate, or should be created and dedicated to information governance, or this role can be assumed by an existing committee. Now, they should be responsible for identifying the responsible individual or department responsible for our information governance functions, developing relationships between individuals and departments responsible for IG functions, creating IG policy, and also coordinating information governance efforts. Patient Safety and Quality of Care Committee, for example, already uses healthcare facility data to evaluate patient care and services to ensure that regulatory, legal, and risk compliance requirements are being addressed and implemented. Therefore, it's feasible that this committee could take on the duties of an information governance steering committee. All right, let's get down into leadership. So the Information Governance Steering Committee is part of the leadership structure of the healthcare facility's information governance efforts. Regardless of how the IG efforts begin, information governance must have permanent leadership structure, resources, and executive level commitment. As a crucial resource for the healthcare facility, information requires support and administration at an executive level to ensure efficient and effective use for strategic planning, financial management, and quality, and performance improvement applications. Executive level personnel can be referred to as the C-suite. This is a jargon term that refers to the positions with titles beginning with C, such as our Chief Executive Officer, our Chief Financial Officer, your Chief Information Officer, your Chief Operating Officer. Rather than dealing with information governance daily operational requirements, C-suite personnel are focused on strategic or conceptual activities. So they're looking at the big picture. All right, dropping down, looking at our structure here. Implementing an information governance plan is a large undertaking. Initially, it's recommended to start the IG process with existing stakeholder committees within the healthcare facility. These committees already have a formalized structure with assigned personnel. Many of these established committees' existing duties translate directly into many of the functions of information governance. So an example, an HIM and Clinical Data and Documentation Committee is already involved in clinical documentation improvement activities. Once the information governance plan is underway, then an IG Council activity or committee can be created. Additional committees that report to the IG Council can be created, or supporting activities can continue to be performed by the existing committees. Clinical documentation improvement is the process an organization undertakes that will improve clinical specificity and documentation, allowing our coding professionals to assign more precise diagnosis classification codes or disease classification codes. In addition to improving the coding process, CDI also improves and supports data quality, availability, usability, which are all key aspects of data governance. All right, let's get into our charter. So, existing committees can be used to lay the groundwork for information governance until we have that formal structure in place. This groundwork includes many of the activities identified in the Information Governance Charter. A charter is a document that identifies the purpose, scope, and the functions of a program. In combination with the work of existing committees, the Information Governance Charter Plan and personnel can be launched. AHIMA, they have developed a charter template, and you can see that charter template on page 255, and it keeps going all the way through page 258 and 259, and it ends at the end of the little summary on 259. So be sure to look through that charter template. Now, as part of our information governance project plan, we have a 5-phase process, and we have activities for each one. So we're talking about initiation, planning, execution, control, and closeout. With each phase, the information governance should consider timeframes, responsible parties, goals and objectives, milestones, and statuses of the activities. Many of these tasks can be delegated to existing committees or the Information Governance Steering Committee. The administrator who oversees the IG efforts should oversee the committees engaged in information governance. So this comprehensive blueprint can be tailored depending on the needs and the resources of the healthcare facility. So now going over to 259, we start talking about SBAR. Now SBAR is a process for facilitating communication and resolving problems that have been used by many healthcare facilities in their quest to implement information governance. Implementing IG practices is such a complex undertaking that there is bound to be resistance to change, hesitancy, and questioning among administration, the medical staff, clinical personnel, and other stakeholders. And so when we talk about SBAR, that's an acronym that stands for Situation, Background, Assessment, and Recommendation. And so situation gives us our detailed explanation of the issue or the problem. Background gives us concise and significant facts surrounding the issue. Assessment is research and analysis of information and our suggested options. And then recommendation is action required to achieve the desired end result. So be familiar with your SBAR elements there. So if the healthcare facility has a problem with retention of health information, SBAR can be used to resolve the problem. The process again begins with defining the situation or the problem, and then they have to assess or get the background. We'll have our background details. We'll identify facts such as when research is starting, what health information is needed, any patients involved. Then we're going to assess, we're going to analyze information collected, and then at the end we're going to have recommendations for how we will go about solving our problem. All right, let's get into our information asset inventory. An information asset inventory is a list of information resources throughout the healthcare facility. It includes all of the types of information identified earlier in the chapter. The inventory should be stored in a spreadsheet or another tool to facilitate access to and ongoing maintenance of the list. This inventory should include both paper and electronic records, reports, medical imaging, and both structured and unstructured data. The inventory is critical to the creation of an information governance program because all of the data and the information to be managed must be known. The responsibility for maintaining the inventory must be assigned. It could be assigned to the steering committee, the HIM director, the HIM department, or another individual or a group. All right, going down to strategic alignment. This is the process and the outcome of linking your organizational structure and resources with your strategy and business environment to achieve performance improvement. Information governance is not a one-time project to fix a specific issue. It's a method of addressing how the healthcare facility is managed so that it will sustain itself in the healthcare marketplace and how it will continue its role as a valuable member of the community. These efforts should be based on the healthcare facility's goals and objectives. The healthcare facility's plans, goals, and activities cannot be monitored and implemented without trustworthy organizational data. And so the American Health Information Management Association, they have taken a very assertive and proactive role in acceptance and promotion of information governance concepts. Now, they kind of partnered with ARMA International, which was formerly known as the Association of Record Managers and Administrators, and a few other key healthcare stakeholders to develop the information governance best practices. Now, if you look over on page 261, there should be a refresher from health records of some of the information governance principles. So we're talking accountability, and you have the definition there for each one of those. So accountability is the designation or identification of a senior member of leadership responsible for the development and oversight of the program. So there has to be someone accountable for your information governance program. Then transparency. Documentation of processes and activities related to information governance are visible and available to review by stakeholders. So all your information, you're not hiding anything. It's there, it's available. Integrity. Systems evidence trustworthiness in the authentication, timeliness, accuracy, and completion of information. So your information is trustworthy. Protection. Program protects private and confidential information from loss, breach, and corruption. Compliance. Program ensures compliance with local, state, and federal regulations, accrediting agency standards, and healthcare organizations' policies and procedures and ethical practices. Then availability. The structure and accessibility of data allows for timely and efficient retrieval by authorized personnel. Retention. Lifespan of information is defined and regulated by a schedule in compliance with legal requirements and ethical considerations. And last, disposition. This process ensures the legal and ethical disposition of information, including, but not limited to, record destruction and transfer. Okay, so we talked about data governance and we talked about information governance, but let's talk about information technology governance. Well, it's kind of hard to think about data governance and information governance without thinking about technology, because most of the time these days, everybody has a computer at their workstation, so you have hardware and software, and then there's telecommunications, so we've got data, image, voice networks, we have email, we have phones, we have all kinds of stuff, so we can't get away from technology these days. Now, moving over to 262. Information technology governance is a subdomain of information governance, and it is essential for any organization using information technology. Information technology governance is the management of all information technology investments, including the selection, implementation, maintenance, evaluation, and its coordination. So if you want a refresher, you can go back to chapter 4 and chapter 5. That's where we talked about the selection and the implementation of electronic health records. Now, information technology governance also encompasses every aspect of the information technology infrastructure, such as the hardware, the software, communication and technology tools, the policies and procedures to provide efficient processes for all electronic activity within the healthcare facility. And typically, your information technology governance is led by your Chief Information Officer. All right, moving on to our last section in this book, we're getting into enterprise information management. This is the set of functions used to plan, organize, and coordinate people, processes, technology, and content for managing information as a corporate asset that ensures data quality, safety, and ease of use. It's ensuring that the processes are in place to generate trust in the information being used. The concepts of enterprise information management and information governance are intertwined. IG establishes the direction for information resources, while EIM identifies the issues, policies, and more than the IG steering committee or appropriate person must address. Since these concepts are intertwined, the same committees and individuals can address both. Now, what are our building blocks of EIM? So, our building blocks is first privacy, security, and confidentiality, then integrity and quality, design and capture, content and records management, and then access and use. So those are our 5 building blocks. You see more information of those in table 14.3. You have each building block and then you have an actual description of that building block. So be familiar with table 14.3 as well. All right, let's get into information governance adoption model. Knowing that the implementation of an information governance program will be a daunting task, AHIMA developed a prototype plan referred to as the Information Governance Adoption Model to assist healthcare facilities when attempting to implement information governance. The functions or skills that are necessary to build an IG program are identified and diagrammatically presented in an easy-to-understand format over on page 265 in figure 14.7. So we start with our IG structure. This creates the information governance program, including executive sponsorship, IG committee, and policies and procedures to support the program. Then we move into our strategic alignment. This ensures that information governance program strategy aligns with the organization's strategy, missions, and vision and goals. Then we move to privacy and security. It protects information across all types of information, all media, throughout the whole life cycle. Then we have legal and regulatory. This verifies a proper, accurate, reliable, efficient response to regulatory audits, information requests, and e-discovery. Then we focus on data governance. This ensures usable and reliable data through comprehensive and proven data management practices. Then we get into IT governance. This strives for risk reduction through an integrated approach to technology selection, evaluation, and use. Analytics. This proves the value of information governance and contributes to a data-driven decision-making culture in the organization through use of advanced tools and technologies. Moving over to 265, number 8 is IG performance. This actually measures the performance and impact of the IG program. Number 9, enterprise information management. It guides practice for information through an information lifecycle across the healthcare ecosystem. And number 10, awareness and adherence. This creates a path for trusted information and safe use of health IT through consistent behavior with respect to information use, sharing, handling, access, storage, retention, and disposition. All right, moving over to page 266, we get into time frames. So if you're going to implement an information governance program, it takes approximately 12 to 18 months. Again, depending on the size of the healthcare facility, the personnel involved, the budget, and other resources. Now, many of the information governance activities aren't difficult, but they can be time-consuming to organize and actually complete. So it is super important for there to be collaboration. This is a people skill. So your IG leader has to ensure that you bring various people and departments together, find common ground and solutions, come to a consensus. So it's not just one or two people making all of these decisions. You have collaboration through people and departments. HIM professionals are ideally suited as key players in the information governance implementation efforts due to their education in HIM principles and experience with managing and protecting health information. Many HIM professionals have experience in various management positions and providing HIM to other department managers to evaluate that unit's performance. All right, so let's get into the roles of the HIM professional. So when we get into the roles of the HIM professional, we're talking about two sets of skills being necessary. So we have our hard skills and then we have our soft skills. Well, our hard skills are basic areas of technology. So informatics skills that involve computer literacy, programming basics, so using SQL or an HL7, the use of basic office application software, talking about databases, graphics, spreadsheets, and even decision support systems. Then we get into data analytics skills. This includes using healthcare statistics and research fundamentals, trend analysis and predictive modeling, financial data, and budget analysis. And then we use data use skills that actually encompass the application of our secondary data visualization techniques, the ability to use any technology to collect, store, analyze, and report a wide variety of information. So hard skills are the actual skills in using software and hardware, okay? Those can be easily taught. You easily learn the hard skills. That sounds completely opposite, but soft skills, these are more subjective traits, okay? These are things that aren't easily taught. So this is your communication skills. So not only verbal and written, but also your interpersonal skills, how you collaborate with others, understanding what was meant in addition to what was said. So I can teach you how to use software. I may not be able to teach you to be a great communicator. Next, critical thinking. Not everyone thinks critically all the time. So using critical thinking skills, using logic and reasoning to interpret situations and people, or to apply principles to processes, or even creating new ideas. So critical thinking is a soft skill. And then last, decision making. Using judgment to aid the ability to choose best options based upon some type of cost-benefit analysis. So using judgment to determine whether something is the right decision because you've thought through the whole process. So you have your hard skills, which are technology related, using software, being able to analyze a budget, things like that. And then you have soft skills, critical thinking, decision making, using judgment, and communication skills. New graduates and HIM professionals must be assertive in trying to obtain the soft skills, in particular, as experience is the best teacher. So there are a number of roles for the HIM professional in data governance and information governance due to their knowledge of data management, privacy and security, and other areas. Many of these roles include data collection, data retention, and other traditional roles which have been broadened thanks to the EHR, data governance, and information governance. All right, so one of those roles that we've talked about in the past is the data steward. And we've talked about a custodian, but typically your HIM director, they're involved with that data stewardship. So information governance processes ensure the integrity of the facility's data. One objective of information governance is stewardship of information that supports compliance and risk management. Meeting this objective requires at least one data steward. This is an individual appointed with responsibility and accountability for data, usually in a specific domain. Data stewards serve as liaisons between designated information governance personnel and the healthcare facility staff whose duties are associated with information technology governance, data governance, or enterprise information management. Data stewardship is the formalization of accountability and a continuum of stewardship responsibilities across the data lifecycle and across the enterprise. Now, when we get into we're getting into some different certifications that are offered here that go along with roles that HIM plays. And so the first one is under the Clinical Documentation Improvement Coordinator section. And so clinical documentation improvement basically is you're going through and you are trying to provide a comprehensive record. So if there's any diagnoses that are not fully clarified, they go through and they ensure that that gets completed by the provider so that you have a complete, accurate picture of what that patient has went through. And so when your CDI program, they can become specialized. They can have a certification through AHIMA called the Certified Clinical Document Improvement Practitioner, or a CDIP. So that's a credential kind of like an RHIA or an RHIT that usually a clinical documentation improvement specialists receive. It says this is awarded to individuals who have achieved specialized skills in clinical documentation improvement. And then our last credential is referring to a health data analyst. So you can get a CHDA credential, Certified Health Data Analyst. So this identifies practitioners who have the knowledge to acquire, manage, analyze, interpret, and transform data into accurate, consistent, and timely information while balancing the healthcare facility's strategic vision with day-to-day details. CHDA credentialed professionals exhibit broad organizational knowledge and the ability to communicate with individuals and groups at multiple levels, both internal and external. All right, and that finishes off our slides, and the last little paragraph there just kind of gets into the future of data information, or data and information governance in HIM. And so it says, with the continued adoption of the EHR and the associated data and information that it creates, the need for data governance and information governance is expected to continue. The information governance and data governance efforts will mature, and healthcare facilities will benefit from the efficiencies, cost savings, and risk mitigations that result from both the DG and the IG initiatives. So again, go back through and read these three sections. Just familiarize yourself with the terms. I did already tell you several of the tables that you do need to be familiar with. This is a good chapter. This is the first time I've included this chapter since I started teaching this class last year, just to make sure that everybody's more comfortable with the terminology used when we talk about information and data governance and getting into analytics. So happy reading and